Black Clover Chapter 362 proves that when it comes to the impact that both Asta and Yuno have had on the Magic Knights that they've encountered, both of them are clearly two of the top candidates of being the next Wizard King, because both of them have a trait that makes a leader indispensable, which is the ability to inspire others through your actions and not so much through your words. A real leader is able to reach someone and pull greatness out of that person even when they aren't physically there, and we see that in both examples with Asta and Yuno in this chapter. The race between Asta and Yuno to become the next Wizard King is clearly reaching its home stretch, and while Yuno might be slightly ahead thanks to Mimosa's campaign speech, Asta is getting closer to the battlefield, and Asta's going to be given the opportunity to lock down the Wizard King position. So with my initial thoughts out of the way, let's go ahead and back things up a bit and let's dive into the recap portion of the review before we fully unpack the chapter itself. So the chapter opens up where the last one left off. Lucius is continuing to troll by having his clones wreak havoc across the Clover Kingdom capital, and we see everyone freaking out, including the king of the Clover Kingdom, who wets himself at the sight of Lucius standing before him after he casually one-shots Captain Kaiser. And as the people in the room look at the face of Julius, the confusion really turns into fear very quickly. All this time that they believe the Wizard King was out of the public eye with no answers being given, they jump to the conclusion that the Wizard King has been absent because he's actually an enemy of the Clover Kingdom. However, just as the panic begins to set in and Lucius begins to destroy more of the surrounding area, a message is broadcast throughout the Clover Kingdom giving an update on the situation at hand. The attendant of the Wizard King, Marks, using his magic power, broadcasts the message to allow Mimosa as well as himself to speak into the hearts of all those who are confused and afraid, as well as all those who are fighting who need to get their fighting spirit uplifted once again. Between the two of them, they let it be known that Julius has had his body taken over and is clearly the strongest enemy that the Clover Kingdom's ever faced. But despite that, there are those who are giving their all in order to bring him down, and it's made public knowledge that Yuno has managed to kill the Wizard King at least once, which is why everyone needs to continue pushing through, because the enemy is not unstoppable. The enemy can be brought down with enough effort if they band together and continue fighting for their country. Mimosa gives her name and status as a member of the royal family before announcing that Yuno was the one who stood up against Lucius and handed down that finishing blow, and that Yuno also has the prestigious four-leaf grimoire. Upon hearing that Yuno was the one who dealt out the first fatal blow to Lucius, there are those who recognize him as being the up-and-coming rookie that the Clover Kingdom recognized a while back, and she continues to say that there are other Magic Knights who are fighting, and the ones who can't currently fight are being killed by her at this very moment so they can get back up and continue on fighting, because this is essentially a line in the sand moment for them, and they cannot bow or break to the force of their enemy, because if they do, it means certain destruction of life as they know it. She reminds them that they should be capable of pushing through their limits because Yuno is supplying them with more magic power than they actually would have been otherwise capable of, and she says to use that power to escape, to live on no matter what, and protect others in the process. It's then that we see the effect that Asta has on the battlefield, first by the way of Mimosa that is gaining strength by thinking of Asta while she's speaking. We then see the unlikeliest of heroes step forward, the ever so cowardly Seke, who shows his bravest moment by finding the strength deep down inside of him by thinking of Asta, and Seke uses the maximum amount of mana that he can muster up for his attack, but he gets yeeted right on the spot, and Seke thinks of Asta and states that he tried to be strong, but becoming strong like Asta isn't something that he can do immediately, but he won't give up nonetheless. Upon hearing Mimosa's awe-inspiring speech, Lucius calls it out as being a sophist argument and states that they're basically wasting their time. Struggling until the end, it merely delays the inevitable in his eyes. This leads to Yuno smirking as he challenges that line of thinking, and the Yuno versus Lucius battle continues to rage on. It's then that we see Asta in the Land of Sun, and Ryuya has that Magatama eye activated, but upon seeing what he sees, it chills him for a moment, and we see the Black Bulls as they're trying to summon Asta, but Magna and most importantly Luck take notice that something is wrong. You can tell Luck is sensing the mana that is approaching, and we get the reveal that the once deceased Damnatio is now back and is a paladin working for Lucius, which this definitely means it's going to go poorly for those he's about to meet given his wrath and how much stronger Lucius makes people when he turns them into paladins. So with the recap portion out of the way, let's back things up further and unpack what we have with the chapter itself. I think the knee-jerk reaction is that Yuno for Wizard King 2024 is clearly off and running with Mimosa as his running mate and his campaign manager, because she definitely went to bat for Yuno while trying to win over the hearts of the people of the Clover Kingdom, but the way that Asta was the inspiration both for her bravery to continue speaking in the face of chaos, and in the way that Asta was the driving force for Seke to stand his ground to protect the citizens, shows that while Asta might not be the sexiest Wizard King candidate, his ability to inspire people in ways that a person can't see is what actually makes him the favorite to be the next Wizard King. Had he not been dealing with the strongest enemy that we've seen in the series so far, Seke might have actually had a true shining moment here, but I can see some people downplaying Seke's moment here because he did low-key get yeeted no difficulty. However, since it appears that Damnatio is standing in front of the Black Bulls, the chance to not only see them in action but also see Dorothy and the Witch Queen in action has me excited for how Tabata actually takes this, because just this latest plot twist shows that while we were rushing towards the climax, the final battle, it looks like it has more legs to it than we might have initially thought. The last chapter had us thinking that Asta was about to return to the battlefield, and Tabata chose the right moment to subvert our expectations by having this be the moment where Asta is going to have to delay showing up, and we as readers are going to have to earn that payoff by suffering a bit more by watching our heroes get throttled a little bit longer by the enemy. That being said, Mimosa is a very quiet MVP right now. Healers, they aren't the sexiest characters, not literally in the case of Mimosa, because Mimosa's got a banging design, but in terms of fan appreciation, they're not the sexiest because they don't necessarily fight, but the way that they're able to lend support and sustain life is just as important as the hands get thrown in a battle. It isn't always about seeing feats in order to power scale characters, and I appreciate this aspect of a character being shown off, but I do think she might have put a target on her back for Lucius to send a clone after her right now. The next thing we have to look at is how did Lucius know to send Damnatio there, specifically to where the Black Bulls were gathered? Does he know that Asta is alive? Is this him trying to specifically keep Asta away from the battlefield? The other question we have to ask is, has Damnatio been possessed by one of the purified devil souls, and if so, which one? I almost want to say Belphegor is the devil that's for him, but given the ritual used on Yami and William back in the Spade Kingdom arc, it would make more sense if Yami actually had that devil heart, especially since both of them had that eternal battle with the toilet seat and constipation. Given how many devils we've had introduced and even going further into demonology, we're starting to run low on the potential candidates that it makes sense for him to actually have as a devil soul. As to why Damnatio is there at the Witch's Forest right now, it makes you wonder how Lucius would know to send him there, and if Lucius might actually be linked on a different level to the paladins he's made, which means he might already know Asta's alive, but if he did know, why didn't he just, I don't know, go there and take out Asta sooner? I think it does go back to something I raised in the last chapter, and I actually hope I'm wrong here, which is the fact that witches and devils, they do share a connection. Ryuya's eye, the Witch Queen's power of foresight, even though it's limited, and Lucius' ability of foresight, I think there's a connection here, and Lucius might have actually tapped into it. I don't think that this is the Witch Queen working with Lucius per se, but I do think their powers might be linked, and I think Lucius might have found a way to exploit it, which is actually gonna be my chapter question, you guys. Why do you guys think that Lucius sent Damnatio to the Witch's Forest of all places? Why you think that over? Click here to watch these other Black Clover videos you see on the screen right now.